How's it going, guys? It's Kass. As always, if you've been enjoying my content, then hit that subscribe button. So in today's video, we're going to talk about something that kind of came out of the blue, and honestly, something that I did not expect happening this quickly, and that is the release of patch 9.1. I think many of us thought that this was going to be like late July, potentially even August at this point, but Blizzard actually surprised us all, and it's being released on June 29th, which is about a week away, depending on when you're watching this video. What I've decided to do then is normally I go pretty in depth in the specific changes coming in the patch, as well as some of the potential customizations and optimizations for Demon Hunter. However, since we don't really have that much time for me to make videos on all of the changes, I thought I'd just make a general video talking about all of them. There are going to be some things that I'm going to skip over here, mostly because I don't think it's that important. However, there may be some videos in the future going in depth on some of the things that I skipped out as well. So that in mind, I've actually already made a video talking about the buffs that we received originally, the single target buffs that we received. I've also already made a video about the PvP changes as well. So I'm going to talk about those briefly, but I'm not going to go too deep with those. So if you'd like to learn more about like the talents and things like that, as well as just my general thoughts on the changes or on the buffs, there'll be links in the description for those as well. So the first thing that happened was we got increases to our single target damage by way of buffs to Demon's Bite and Chaos Strike. These are pretty good changes that just generally shift the way that the class is going to be played, especially in single target environments. Prior to these changes, we were already pushing towards the Cycle of Hatred style of build where we were no longer pressing Blade Dance. With these changes, I think we're going to be pushed even further, and honestly, it's probably just going to be the best style of build by a decent margin. I still think the Chaos Theory style with Blade Dance is still going to be probably okay. We also got a change to Unnatural Malice, which made it so it's scaled based off of the dot portion of the damage versus the actual flat damage of the conduit. This is a massive buff to AoE potential and actually a buff to single target as well. I also have a video going in depth about that with some of the testing and numbers. Next thing is that we're going to talk about is the soul binds, and it's pretty interesting. Mastery as a whole has never really been that great of a stat for Demon Hunter in Shadowlands, just because we were playing physical based builds that had you pressing Blade Dance off of cooldown. Now that we're not playing that, most likely Mastery is actually going to get significantly better for the class, because our spenders are going to be only chaos damage, which Mastery buffs. That basically makes it so Night Fae and Naya specifically is just going to be the best conduit for us. There are some situations where Venthyr might be okay, especially with the Covenant specific legendary. However, I think the amount of master that we get with Naya and just generally some of the survivability aspects of this as well is just probably going to be our best option. So with that in mind, we got an addition here after where we left off. We got a new potency conduits. We got this new option here, which makes it so whenever you crit, you gain movement speed. Obviously, as Demon Hunter, we don't really need the extra movement speed, so this is probably just a no-go. But then there's Survivor's Rally. And this is actually a very, very strong ability here, and going to be probably a make-or-break ability for Demon Hunters in PvP in a lot of situations. This makes it so whenever you fall below 50% health, you regain 20% of your health over 10 seconds, and you receive 5% additional healing from other spells and abilities. This can happen every 60 seconds, so basically this is kind of just going to negate some of the nerfs to darkness, and in tandem with the buffs to blur, this is just going to be a nice little supplemental heal that Demon Hunter gets. Moving on from there, we have Bonded Hearts. This makes it so whenever you gain a stack of redirected anima from Grove Invigoration, that it also heals nearby allies for 2% of their health. And if the nearby ally is a different covenant, you get 50% increase effect of the buff from redirected anima. This basically means whenever you press the hunt, if you're near a friendly player that also is a different covenant, you're going to get a significant amount more mastery for a 5-second window, which is pretty nice, just given whenever we're pressing the hunt in those cases, we're trying to burst in a lot of those points. So overall, it's just a pretty nice little damage increase given from this talent here. Moving on from there, we're going to talk about the darkness change. And this change has honestly been a positive and a negative. The reason why this is a positive is because we get access to no longer having to play Cover of Darkness, and in PvP environments as well, we get access to no longer having to use the darkness specific legendary in situations like 2v2 and things like that. Honestly, I think that legendary is probably just useless now, which sucks because it was the first one that I upgraded fully. However, we'll have to work on other ones. Darkness did get a buff in baseline to 50% chance to avoid damage while in PvP combat from 20%, so a baseline 30% increase in PvP. However, in tandem with Cover of Darkness, the original design of Cover of Darkness, this was actually 70%, so this is actually 20% less. However, the difference between 50 and 20%, or 50 and 70% evade in a lot of situations isn't going to be that noticeable. So this is just a pretty good change overall, even though it's slightly less powerful than what we had before. Moving on from there, we're going to talk about legendaries. With the Covenant specific legendaries, I don't think any of them are really that good, except for the Venthyr one, just because of how much damage potential that adds. That legendary by itself may be a reason why players play Venthyr. Like I said before, I think the soul binds from Night Fae are just significantly better. And then obviously in PvP, you're going to want to be playing Night Fae because the hunt can't be dispelled. In PvE though, I'm pretty sure that Dark Glare Medallion's probably just going to be the best option for single target and AoE as well. This is just because we are no longer pressing Blade Dance, so Chaos Theory is probably not going to be that great. I think you could probably still use it if it's your highest item level legendary. However, realistically, you're going to want to work on Dark Glare Medallion. Burning Wound is still probably going to be fine as well. The main reason why Dark Glare Medallion is probably just going to be the best option, however, is because of the buffs that we're getting to our single target. We're going to be pressing a lot more Chaos Strikes. We're also going to be most likely playing Cycle of Hatred as well, which gives us access to more IVs also. So just generally, this legendary makes that whole playstyle better. And that's most of the reason why Dark Glare Medallion will probably be the best option for legendaries. For PvP, it's a little bit different now since the Darkness Legendary isn't that great. I actually think Collective Anguish is probably going to be our best option. The amount of healing that we get from the Fell Devastation is very good. And then on top of that, if you get locked, the Fell Devastation still goes off for the full duration. So honestly, it's a pretty nice defensive layer that we get, and it gives you some potential offensive benefit as well, which is what makes this just a good option for PvP in general. Some of the more offensive choices like Chaos Theory are probably still going to be pretty strong in arena environments, especially 3v3 where you have access to a healer. But overall, I think if you're just a casual or 2v2 player, Collective Anguish is probably going to be the best bet. I think it's important to realize though, whenever we move into new patches, you're going to have to take everything with a grain of salt. There's always going to be some things that don't work as intended, or some things that are just go under the radar that are very strong. So with that in mind, even though there are some definitive things that I said in this video, make sure you do your research and don't just listen to me outright. Also, I think Demon Hunter as a whole is going to be in obviously a better spot with these buffs. However, I don't think these buffs are going to push them that far up. So it's pretty unlikely Demon Hunter is going to get to a situation where they're like the best melee with these changes. However, I think they're still going to be in a spot where they can compete, which honestly is all that we can ask for. As always, if you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't like the video, F5 refresh, try it again. Maybe like the second time. Have a good one.